All right, good evening. The time is 6:09 p.m. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Ms. Perry, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Stephanie Dalton here. Vice Mayor Holly Berry here. Commissioner Jamie Fairbanks Harvey here. Commissioner Terry Holmes here. Commissioner Hayes Wilkinson.
I'm here.
Great, thank you. For today's invocation, please join me in a moment of silence to reverently collect our thoughts, pray, and ready ourselves for this meeting and the duties to which we have been called. Thank you. Now, Mr. Brown, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I don't know about you all, but it has been a true joy for my family watching our 4 North American astronauts throughout their journey to and around the moon. Thank you to Reed, Victor, Christina, Jeremy, their loved ones, and the entire crew at NASA who made this historic mission possible. Seeing our beautiful planet through your eyes over 250,000 miles away has been deeply impactful, especially during Earth Month. Please let us all do what we can to care for our planet and all the people on it, near and far. And on that note, I would ask everybody, if you haven't already, to check out our April e-newsletter. I wrote an article in it for Earth Month, which I have been doing for the past several years, focused on stormwater efforts, particularly, and our stormwater credits program. So if you're not familiar with that, if you want to check that out and figure out if you might qualify for a discount on your annual stormwater fee, that would be a great and easy place to see that information. We have our Earth Day cleanup, our annual Earth Day cleanup, with Green Steps coming up on April 25th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And we'll meet at City Park, and then it will be a citywide cleanup. And that same day, April the 25th, that evening, it's a Saturday from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. We will have our first Food Truck Saturday event. And we will be doing one Food Truck Friday and one Food Truck Saturday event each month, because we had some neighbors who said that they couldn't make it on Fridays because of, getting home from work and it's the end of the week. And so we're trying to open it up to more neighbors. Last week, I was able to join our active older adults and have a little coffee chat with them. We had a really great conversation talking about current projects, upcoming projects, plans, our budget season, and more. They had a lot of really great questions, and this is the second time I've done it, and it was just a really nice experience to be there with them. And I also got to see them start line dancing afterwards, which everybody seems to enjoy. It was a full house. So shout out to Tegan, our Parks and Rec assistant, who does a really great job with all of our programming. Our first Food Truck Friday is this Friday, April 10th, from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. at City Park. Everybody has been asking when the shawarma grill is supposed to open. I have, right after the middle school property, I would say it's the second, most frequent question I've had. And one of our neighbors saw the owners in the parking lot a couple of days ago, and they said they hope to have it open by April 15th. So just keep an eye out for that. Very excited to have them here because shawarma does not exist anywhere else in Chattanooga. So be a bit of a destination here in Red Bank. Clever Ale House is doing a roundup campaign for all of April in support of the Red Bank Community Food Pantry. So if you're there, round up $1 or $2, and that helps support our neighbors in need. We have our Godseed Ridge Trail System ribbon cutting ceremony coming up on April 19th at 1:30 p.m. We'll have a whole ceremony with staff and neighbors, elected officials, our partners who help make this project a reality. And then there will be guided bike rides and hikes after the ceremony. So I hope you all will be able to join us. It is an election year. The voter registration date for the May 5th primary was yesterday, so I hope you checked your registration. You can still request your absentee voting ballot now through April 25th for the May 5th primary, and then early voting is April 15th through the 30th. And then finally, just wanted to touch on the Alpine Crest meeting that is happening or was happening at 5:30 at the school this evening. Obviously, none of us were able to attend, but as I said, I met with Ben Connor, our school board member, yesterday at our Red Bank Way meeting where we meet with all the principals and other community partners on a monthly basis. And he said that right now they are still waiting for the YMCA to vote on a memorandum of understanding that they are going to then send to the school board to review for the new school that's supposed to go where Dupont is. And so once that happens and they vote on it, then it will go to the county commission. Then it will go back to the school board for them to vote on a contractor, and then back up to the county commission for funding. So this is probably at least 3+ years away from happening. But just keep an eye out in the news. I'm sure they will continue to give us updates as they happen. And now we have our report from Vice Mayor Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also so excited for our first Food Truck Friday of the season coming up this Friday, April 10th. I hope to see many of you there. Next Saturday, April 18th, will be a Red Bank Cemetery Decoration Day from 10 a.m. to noon. And that is at the cemetery that is the closest place to park would be the church parking lot up the hill on Morrison Springs. And then you can walk and have to sneak into a residential area between two houses. But now we have a beautiful gate that will welcome you into that cemetery. If you haven't been there before, it's a really beautiful and peaceful space. Just a reminder to everyone that we are now entering budget season. We had our first Budget 101 workshop at the work session earlier prior to this meeting. We will be meeting every week for the entire month of April. This annual budget process happens at the same time every year, and it is scheduled to conclude with a first reading and vote on our second meeting in May, Tuesday, May 19th, and a final vote on our first meeting in June. I encourage everyone with an interest in how the city invests your tax dollars and returns them to you in the form of services to please pay close attention. And finally, the next Red Bank Community Food Pantry is next Thursday, April 16th from 4:30 to 6:30. The Red Bank address. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have a report from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey.
Sure. Thank you for being here and those on YouTube watching in. Congratulations to notable police officers for stellar service in 2025. It was noted to us, Bruce Erlinger with 10 years, just choosing some of them, Kyle Dennis with investigations, life-saving award, John Payne and Dustin Ruffner, and Officer Ruffner helped with first aid at the Gab Road and 153 incident. Shane Dockery, leadership, Steve Hope, supervisor, and Tracy Montgomery, officer of the year. Extending that, congratulations to Red Bank residents Susan and Scott Harden for volunteer recognition service with our veterans. Most decorated, the two of them, I'm thinking they're going to come and attend our next commission meeting, which will be April 21st, but their vidas are quite impressive as volunteers. Scott served a couple of duties, and Susan as his counterpart. Susan has helped organize luncheons, volunteers with Salvation Army, placing wreaths on the 52,000 headstones at the Chattanooga National Cemetery. Susan has also worked with Postal Service, and her biggest endeavor is to honor the 855 women with the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion, the only Black and multi-ethnic U.S. Women's Army Corps served in World War II. So I hope they can come and explain exactly what it is that they have contributed. And they're our Red Bank residents, so we need to really recognize what they are doing for our community. Supporting Northside Neighborhood House, there's a runway remix, a fashion show of used clothing. That will be this Friday from 6:30 to 9 at the Signal. It is a fully thrifted fashion show, so tickets are on sale. A final reminder that the Red Bank High School all-class reunion reservations are due by April 17th, this is the last commission meeting before that time. The reunion will be April 25th from 1 to 4 at the gym at the high school, $24. So come and visit, reminisce, and enjoy our past years together. The update on the Liberty Bells that I mentioned last meeting, we have agreed on 3 that will be adorning your city in highly visible locations in Red Bank. That's coming to us sometime at the end of the month, and they'll be displayed in May. Upcoming events, as Vice Mayor Berry has mentioned, the Decoration Day, the Godsey Ridge Trail. One other, as I found out from Eddie Isles, will be presenting a fall prevention on April 16th from 11 a.m. at the community center. And you can see all this on the Active Older Adults schedule on our calendar. So that will be 11 o'clock, April 16th, a Thursday, fall prevention. And then, as Mayor mentioned, on the May 5th primary. And then there will also be an election August 6th, followed by November 3rd, and that will include Red Bank Commission voting November 3rd. Next Listen and Learn is Monday, April 20th at 6 to 7 p.m. at Mr. Burrito, April 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our report from Commissioner Holmes.
Good evening. Thanks to all present tonight and watching online. Please stay tuned for our meetings and discussion this spring, as mentioned already. That's a great way to stay informed by watching online if you can't be here in person. The article written by Mayor Dalton was also mentioned previously, focusing on helping others and being a good steward of the planet that we live on. Check out the monthly newsletter by subscribing to it through the website, redbanktn.gov. As you spring clean, please request a bulk trash pickup, as the regular trash is for household trash. So I've seen some other types of trash in the regular garbage can, but you can request bulk trash pickup for those items that you no longer need. As mentioned, Food Truck Friday is this week on Friday, and there will be some Food Truck Fridays, some Food Truck Saturdays this season. So please be aware of the changes. And then Godsey Ridge Trail, which was also already mentioned, will be April 19th at 1:30 at the trailhead. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And finally, we have a report from Commissioner Wilkins.
Okay, per usual, not much meat left on the bone. No, very excited for the Godsey Ridge Trail opening. I think that will be an amazing asset to add to our community. It's gotten a lot of attention from around town. People are talking about it already, so it's pretty cool. Not much else to add, honestly. I will be absent from the April 28th meeting. We'll be on the other side of the country with my family. So I'll miss you guys there, but I can watch on YouTube. I'll look forward to hearing the reports. That's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have our city manager's report. Mr. Branham.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. At every commission meeting since late October, I have reminded us of the condition of our elected judge, Johnny Houston. This evening, the commission will take action to declare the office of the judge of the City Court for the City of Red Bank to be vacant. And so my regular updates will cease. But I ask that we all keep Johnny in our heart and in our prayers as he continues his recovery. We are now in the final quarter of FY26. Our belt tightening strategy is working, and it also is impacting staff. We are currently holding 6 vacancies and likely at least 2 more before the end of the fiscal year. And of course, this time of year, as we've mentioned, is budget season, and we initiate the budget process as well this evening. The next 2 months will necessarily be focused on the budget development with healthy amounts of conversation, discussion, discernment, and ultimately decision as we conduct the people's business. With the spring weather here, there is a full slate of community activities as mentioned. And I encourage everyone to check out our Facebook page where much of this information on much of what has been mentioned can be found. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda, which contains the March 17, 2026 meeting minutes, authorization of the purchase of Edmunds GovTech software, authorization to replace the fence around Kids Corner Playground, proclamation for April 12th through 18th as National Telecommunicators Week, declaration of the Red Bank City Judge Office as vacant, and the allocation expenditure of interest earned on ARPA funds. Do we have any items that need to be on the consent agenda? Yes, thank you. We will remove E and F to the end of new business. Do I have a motion to approve as amended?
Second.
Okay. A motion from Vice Mayor Barry, a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any discussion? Any comments by the residents present? There are no comments, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. No unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. Ordinance number 26-1302, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, to amend the fiscal year 2026 operating budgets beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2026, in order to appropriate unbudgeted expenditures for the general fund in the amount of $130,300 and stormwater in the amount of $4,000. First reading. Ms. Pickle, we did discuss this during the work session. Do I have a motion to approve? A motion from Vice Mayor Barry. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any further discussion or questions of Ms. Pickle? Any comments from the residents present? There are no comments. Will Ms. Perry, can you please call the vote?
Mayor Dalton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barry?
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Hardy?
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkinson?
Yes.
All right, motion carries on first reading. Moving on to ordinance number 26-1303, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee to amend City Code Title 15, Chapter 3, Section 301 to establish a revised speed limit on State Route 8, getting so hard, from the Stringers Ridge Tunnel to Signal Mountain Road. First reading. Based on staff recommendation, I am proposing to amend the caption to read from Stringers Ridge Tunnel to Hedgewood Drive, and also amend the second whereas statement from Stringers Ridge Tunnel to Hedgewood Drive as well. I'm proposing that motion.
I'll move to approve as amended.
Okay, thank you. A second. Motion from Vice Mayor Barry and a second by Commissioner Holmes. Is there any further discussion? Any comments from the residents? Please step forward and state your name and address.
Deirdre Hamill, 211 Woodrow Avenue. What do you want to change the speed limit to?
What? This was discussed in the work session. For this area specifically, is being proposed to drop down to 35 miles per hour in alignment with the other side of State Route 8 that's on the other side of the
Cherokee
Boulevard. Yes, the Cherokee Tunnel.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further comments? Okay. If there are no more comments, Ms. Perry, can you please call the vote?
Mayor Dalton?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries on first reading. Moving on to ordinance number 26-1304, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, establishing speed limits for Ashland Terrace and on Dayton Boulevard in the area of downtown Red Bank, first reading. Based on staff recommendation as well, I'm proposing a motion to amend ordinance number 26-1304, section 1, subsection 2, by deleting East Leewood Avenue and replacing it with Prison Street as the southern boundary on Dayton Boulevard, and to replace the map attachment with a revised map illustrating the southern boundary on Dayton Boulevard at Prison Street. Do I have a motion to approve as amended?
I'll move to approve as amended.
Motion from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
The second from Commissioner Holmes. Any further discussion? Okay. Any comments from the residents present? Please step forward and you'll have to give your name and address. This is a separate voting item.
Deirdre Hamel, 211 Woodrow Avenue. I work, so I can't be here to the work session. What's the speed limit that you're proposing? 35?
35 miles per hour, yes. This was presented by our public works director, police chief, as 35 on that section of Dayton Boulevard and then on Ashland Terrace.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, any further comments from the residents present? No more comments. Ms. Berry, can you please call the vote?
Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
Yes.
Motion carries on first reading. Moving on to ordinance number 26-1305, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, to amend City Code Title 15, Chapter 3, Section 301, with respect to speed limits in school zones, and to establish the parameters of such school zones. First reading. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion from Commissioner Holmes, and I have a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Is there any further discussion about these school zones that were presented on in the work session?
I believe the school zone use, or the existing school zone speed limits are 25 miles per hour. In case anyone has-
During the school zone
During
times.
hours, yes.
Yes, during school zone hours. Except for the secondary roads around Ashland Terrace, in the Point Christian Academy school zone, which will be 15 miles per hour during the school zone times.
And perhaps Alpine Crest as well, 15 miles
Yes.
an hour. In the residential streets.
Any further discussion? Any comments from the residents present? If there are no comments, Ms. Perry, can you please call the vote?
Mayor Dalton,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Barry,
Yes.
Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
Motion carries on first reading. Moving on to resolution number 26-1895, a resolution by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, authorizing an agreement with Blue Line Solutions, Inc. for the implementation and operation of an automated speed enforcement services program within the city. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion from Vice Mayor Barry. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey. Any further discussion?
Yes, a couple additional questions. Have we looked into any alternative solutions here? I know it's a difficult area to police, but I mean, what can we do to be creative here? I know there will be a lot of public outcry about having those in our town. You know, I know that there's a distinction between the red light cameras that we had previously and these, but that's some nuance that a lot of people won't pick up on. But you know, decades later, we still hear about this red light cameras that we've had previously. So if you could just,
Well, what I'd say is one of the reasons we were looking into this was, we thought it was a valid solution, especially on that section of Ashland Terrace and S curves. Looking at other options, even like, officers getting in there to be able to enforce is a very difficult area, and it's such a accident prone type, roadway, in there. Believe even the establishment of these cameras, even being there, would hopefully slow people down. Any other methods, ideas, I don't know that we've even really discussed or anything came to mind during those discussions for that.
I mean, even if something as simple as like having an officer on foot at the bottom of the hill with a radar gun, have somebody else walk up and give them a ticket when it gets to, gets to traffic.
Well, and we've done things like that on occasion, like the Morrison Springs, where people drive in their center turn lane. Some education enforcement when individuals have been on phones, but an officer being on foot or on a bicycle, even though they've done that, I cringe at the idea of being that and around traffic. So it's still difficult, and that's on occasion, right? That's when somebody can, maybe they're not on call or whatnot. This, of course, would be, more consistent.
And then as far as like, when they're active, this is strictly during school hours, is that correct?
For school zone, yes, and even I think there's a bill of legislation to even clarify that currently, it might even be on the governor's desk, I'm not quite sure. But to clarify that for school zones, it would be an operation while children are present, right? Or at least that's the limitation. So whatever that means in the verbiage, and we'll have to look at the law exactly. But that's only our intent, right? Is to have them running during the day while children are present at school, going to and from and present during school. The other part of this is kind of the S curves on Ashland Terrace, and so there's not a restriction or stipulation about when those would be in operation. So in that section of road, in the S curves, those could operate 24/7.
Do you have any other questions or comments?
So you're saying, you just said during school, so is it like school's on, like arriving to and from school, then off, and then it turns back on when school gets out, so that little 45 minutes of dismissal? Or did you say something different?
Now they can run the way the law is written currently, they could be on 24/7. Okay, they just have to be in a school zone. It doesn't say they have to be in an active school zone. The current bill that's before the state legislature, and it was moving forward, so I just don't know where it's at in the process, restricts operation of those cameras for school hours while children are present. So if children start arriving at 7 a.m. and they're there for after school activity at 4 or 5 o'clock, I would think that the cameras could be allowed to run and function during that whole time. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to operate during those times, but that is what the law would allow the maximum time that they can run.
So has Red Bank established their time period for when we would run them? I thought that was earlier in the presentation where we said it would be during arrival and dismissal from school. Maybe I can read it right.
Well,
Yeah, that's my question as well, is who's putting up these guardrails and how are we going to stay within them,
well, we decide that. I mean, as far as staff, it's the city, we would establish that. And even what speed that the violations would show up, we would decide that, staff here, the city, and would then tell Blue Line. Blue Line is not in charge of establishing when they enforce or what speed they enforce. That would be up to us to decide, and that could change. I mean, we could. The way I understand it is, if we start off saying that, we want to not cite until 15 miles an hour over, for a violation, it's like, oh no, well, that's too much. We still have a lot of violators and drop it, or vice versa. We can adjust that as needed. So just because we established the standard, or at least kind of what they presented is, I think in Georgia, it's mandated in the law. 11 over is what they're allowed. So just kind of as a standard, I believe that most jurisdictions probably adopt that as a general rule of thumb, but it doesn't mean we have to do that. We're not going to do 1 or 2 over for sure. So, but we are. The goal is to slow people down and reduce our crashes for sure.
Okay, so Chief, if you could, just for clarification, the resolution that we're voting on, the parameters that we are voting on today are that they're only going to be operational during like arrival and dismissal times for right now? Or is this just this just allows the contract and then you all decide that internally and we have no vote in that side of things? Just trying to make sure that we are all understanding what we're voting on.
Sure. My intent is to, presenting this to you, is to get approval to enter into the contract, and then the details of that contract would be reviewed from the city attorney and city manager. And of course, with my input involvement as well. It doesn't mean that I'm sure that the city manager will be more than willing to take input from the commissioners for sure. So as far as having a formal, as part of the resolution, I'm not asking, or it doesn't contain like limitations of when or what speed that violations will be set. It's just entered into this agreement, and then staff would determine what those particular agreements, along with the city attorney, of course, reviewing the contract as well too. So my intent, my thought is trying to run the cameras that are associated with the school zones from, like if the school zone lights activate like 20 to 30 minutes prior to school start, we would have them run from that time until afternoon dismissal. So they'd be running 8, 9 or so hours. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean the speed limit is 25 miles an hour during the times the lights are flashing, speed limit is 25. So if we said that it'd be cited 36 miles an hour, whatnot, then a regular time during the rest of the school zone, the cameras can be set to the normal speed limit of 40 miles an hour. So then it would allow, whatever we set that at 51 or whatever. That would just be during. The reason I do that is, or recommend to do that, not just for the arrival and departure times, is we know there's kids coming in and out of the school during the day. There's parents and there's people coming in late, and there's school activities. And some of the schools, there may be kids playing out in the roadway, even Point Christian, where they have to cross over into their playgrounds and things like that. So I think it's just important. There's activities after school with all the practicing and all that. So there's still kids that can be around the school. And so that's just my thought. Trying to keep the speeding down during those times.
So this authorizes, the contractual piece. And within this, I see there's, the language around potential use in the S curves, like you mentioned on Ashland Terrace, and then, other school zones, and then other designated areas that pose a significant risk to the public. It's pretty broad, but would there be something that would come back before us when there's actual installation of these cameras, in which areas those would be going in? Since there's not a cost, I guess on one, side of things, technically it wouldn't necessarily have to come back before us for a vote, but I'm curious about what that looks like. Mr. Stoltz, I don't know if that made sense.
Well, I think I can speak to that. Actually, we would absolutely be in full conversation with the commission about the actual rollout of this, the hours, the particulars about the location. We've sort of been sequentially working through this. The first actually was to establish the school zones formally, which really had never been done, or if they had ever been done, they were lost. So the earlier actions this evening were sort of define literally the spaces and roads we're talking about. And we want to be in full conversation. The chief basically, stated his intent, and that was very similar to mine. Really reacting to the commission goal of creating, safer streets for all. And there's a particular vulnerability around schools and school zones. So, but we don't want to take it too far, absolutely. And the commission is the right body to throttle, how far we go or how much we hold back. So the chief and I will definitely be in conversation with you. I think the intent from tonight is to green light, to take it to the next level in conversation with Blue Line. They know we're serious. They can dedicate resources, actually put engineering staff out here to start placing poles. And we now know precisely, even from a staff standpoint, we really didn't know precisely where the school zone around Point Christian was until tonight, until the commission resolution. So all these variables are starting to come in to be more defined, and we can have a higher order conversation with Blue Line and then bring it back to the commission about what this really looks like. And tweak it and adjust it. We have a lot of latitude to actually agree when and how much and what speeds and what times. There's a lot that we can still decide.
And Blue Line can't just come in and decide what roads to put them in or what locations, right?
Right.
And we're up front and saying our section on Ashland Terrace, from the top to the bottom, right? The S curve and then school zone area, and then Morrison Springs school zone area, right? Because there has to be studies done, and also we're limited to school zones and S curves by statute. They can't, do anymore. So. And there is also some collaboration with Public Works, right? Because there's signage and poles and things, right? So Blue Line's engineers will have to work with our streets department in coordination with this. So Mr. Graham says it's a starting point for them for us to enter this agreement and then just start this work.
Thank you. Mr. Stoltz, procedurally, is there any, anything where this would come back or could come back to us for a vote before, implementation of the actual hardware happens?
The way this resolution is written presently, would allow an agreement to be entered by and between the city, with the city manager and or the mayor being authorized to sign a contract after I have approved or worked through it in the process that the police chief was describing with the city manager and everybody's input. So you're not approving a particular contract, you're specifically not approving the specimen contract that's in the materials that were circulating. But a direct answer to your question, no, the way it is structured, there is nothing that compels the final form of the contract to come back before the commission, before it being implemented.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Does that answer the question?
It does. I guess where I may be having a little confusion now is that all the presentations we had and all the discussion we had from what I'm recalling was that these were only going to be operational during those certain, like arrival and dismissal times. I somehow missed, or maybe it wasn't discussed, in depth about potentially being on, throughout the school day. I'm not saying anything about that one way or the other. I just was not necessarily aware of that being part of the conversation. Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you. Is there a way that the contract that it be reevaluated, revisited, since there's a lot of questions, but to revisit and see how effective these tools are in the school zones? And then if we see that it's accomplishing the goal, renew. If not, then either keep one or two, like the S curves, or revamp the direction that we're going.
That likely might be a question for Blue Line, but
Okay.
what I could say, I just kind of go back to what they ask is a 2-year commitment to recoup and cover their costs of their engineers coming out, the establishment of the equipment, and the installation of those. And obviously, after the agreed time, the city can decide whether to continue that agreement or not. And I think it's smart of us anyway. We want to look at the data and say, hey, how many violations are we getting? Because all this educational piece that'll occur, and it's interesting to see the drop in the violations as well, which is a little tragic.
Question, so it almost feels like we're jumping the gun here a little bit, because, we're establishing these school zones, and then we ought to do the due diligence prior to entering into this contract. Am I off base in saying that? There seems to be a lot of questions being asked too, so maybe should we table this, revisit it, have another chance to ask more questions and think about it?
Okay.
Can I ask what due diligence you're referring to, Commissioner Wilkinson?
Well, we put up the flashing lights, maybe do a phased approach, like put a box on a pole, say like, hey, you're speeding, don't do that. And we see how effective an alternative solution is. This sort of thing just gives me heartburn. So I don't want to commit to 2 years of, bad public will, like I get that, yes, this will be during school zone or school hours, but there's sort of a nebulous nature to your answer there as well. So
can I ask I understand what you're saying. Can I ask a question that, Brian, I don't know if this may be something you might have to answer. If these were operational from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., during school hours, it's 25 miles per hour from 7 to 7:45 and then 3 to 3:45 or whatever. And then in those in-between hours, it's 35 miles per hour, right? Because that's what we just voted on for Ashland Terrace, just as an example, okay? Would your all's system be issuing citations for speed limit, exceeding the speed limit during that middle time? Is that something like we would arrange with you through this contract, and then you just say whatever you guys want to do during these hours that's allowed by state law, you guys can set that up for us, and it would issue citations for people, hypothetically speaking, in that,
Yes.
middle of the school day hours.
Yes, everybody runs it just like the chief said, because you have buses coming in and out.
Uh-huh.
And you're doubling, usually if it's a 15-mile zone, it goes to 30, right? So this one's 25 and it's going to 35. So they have to be doing 46 before. That's
Before
up to
it's
you.
triggered.
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
And the Morrison Springs school zones have been established because we've done the speed studies about a year and a half ago, probably.
Greg, you want to say something about?
Yeah, I was just going to remind, I think it was presented in commission probably several months ago. MTS also did a study for that area. And, there were people during the school zone activation period of 25 miles per hour, there were people running through there 55, 60 miles an hour. And vice versa, when it's not active and it's 40 miles an hour, they're still running through there 55, 60 miles an hour. And I think it's important to remember too, that most of that traffic that we're talking about in that zone, especially Morrison Springs, is out of city traffic, people just passing through our neighborhoods. And the chief certainly, I've asked that same question. I think Commissioner Wilkinson raised a question about an officer, but he's like the rest of us. He doesn't have the staff to do everything that we need to get done. And so this is just a technology tool that takes the place of an individual. It's not meant to capture somebody and say, aha, we finally caught you. It's to take the place of that officer standing at the bottom of the hill unprotected with a radar gun. I remember in days gone by, officers standing there, just like you said, shooting radar, and there'd be a motorcycle cop down here shooting radar, and then there'd be two cops up at the top of the hill pulling them over. You know, standing outside motioning for them into a driveway or something. And then the city has also took efforts to do that. Back in the probably early 90s, the city had a speed van that parked on Morrison Springs Road. Every day when school got out, there was a white, I believe it was a Chevy van parked there with a Red Bank police officer sitting in there with technology that would do this very same thing. Now, I don't know what happened. I wasn't involved in it, but I do know, I know the officer that was doing it because I made fun of him because I said, you know, they finally found something he could do. But you know, the city has, you know, done that. And of course it went away. And then back to the point I just shared with the mayor probably 2 weeks ago, an idea that I had about digital signs and put them up over Morrison Springs Road. But the problem with the digital signs that we buy to use for road work, they're aimed at a lane. And if you don't break that beam, it doesn't register you. Whereas this technology is laser and it tracks the vehicle once it picks up on the speed. So, you know, I just want to, you know, say that there's a lot of discussion going on, but the reason that we're doing it is because of the speed studies that indicate that people are driving very fast through our city. And most of them are not Red Bank residents. They're people just passing through.
Did we have data from them from Ashland Terrace as well? I can't remember if that was included.
I don't think we had speed data. It wasn't included in the barge study.
Okay.
It was basically just vehicle counts.
Okay.
They didn't do the speed.
Okay.
Now I could probably pull some data off of that one sign up there at the top of the hill. It's been up there for about 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's still tracking cars, it still flashes
Mm-hmm.
and shows the speed and lets you know when you're over speed. Mm-hmm. So it's an old Bluetooth device. If I can get it to connect, I can probably pull some data and we can get some real-time figures on what's happening through there. Unless it's got a picture of my truck in there, which is, we've lost.
Well,
Thank you, Director.
And FYI, we started this, and it's been 3 or 4 years ago, actually. Blue Line came in and helped us, and it wasn't just these 2 locations. We looked at Pine Breeze Road, we looked at Alpine Crest Elementary, we looked at other locations, and we have some speed data. They just like, hey, do we have a problem here? And you know, we have some data from on Ashland Terrace from them. You know, back in the barge didn't run that.
The bottom line is slow down. I mean,
Right.
And it will, your neighbors at Sonny Daisy, before we even turn the equipment on, 87% production. That's the goal.
Can I ask, how would you do like warnings and education
Right.
when there's technically, you know, potentially could be 2 different, you know,
2 different
speed limit.
areas?
Yeah.
Well,
Like even on
well,
Ashland Terrace, 25 during the school zone hours, but 35, or school zone, drop off and pick up, but 35 in the middle of the day.
Right.
How would you say, hey, you need to slow down to this mile per hour, you know, for these hours, but then in the middle part of the day, you know, it would go up this, you know, like how would we clearly educate?
Articulate that, how
around
would you
that?
articulate that to everybody? We have templates for that. You want to, I mean, you could get the news media out here and say, hey, this speed, throughout the day will be monitored from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. It will monitor it 2 different, because it's smart. Say it's from 7 to 8, if it's 15, at 8:01, it gives you a minute buffer to go through there before it would start. You want to make sure that everybody knows that, right? The education is the most important part. You got to educate everyone, or you don't have a successful program. We don't want the blowback that you're talking about. We don't want that. We want to save lives, and we want people to slow down. So the education, yes, you can articulate how you want, and then you get 30 days of warning, right? So first 30 days, everybody gets a warning citation. You have the sign that says "Focal and Force," the school zone, then your speed is, then you go past stuff. But we set it up for success, not for failure, because we don't want to fail. We want it to be a successful program.
And there's a potential side effect of maybe deterring pass-through drivers
Right,
from
right.
coming to our
Well,
city who are just driving through.
We did one in South Fulton, Georgia. They've got 18 schools now, but they had 16 to start with. And it's a suburb of Atlanta. Little girl was killed, unfortunately, in the school zone before we put the stuff up. Her name's on every one of the camera zones. But the first 30 days of warning, there was 82% reduction in 25,000 less cars coming through those school zones because it was pass-through. Everybody found an alternate route.
And as a reminder too, we're talking about the civil penalty, right? $50 if it doesn't associate with a driving record or motor vehicle registration or anything like that.
Insurance and anything like that.
Right.
It's no different than a handicap parking.
And we do have a speeding problem in our town,
Certainly.
so the issue.
The data
is
shows
slows
that
down. I'm not crazy about during the day, but you bring up a point, the children and faculty and staff are at school, coming and going. So we need to
Yeah,
slow down.
buses.
We need to slow down. All that.
I just wanted to say, thank you for bringing up the
Yes, ma'am.
speed reduction, before the cameras are even active.
Yes.
Because for me, I think we all are in agreement that, we want to make data-driven decisions for our city. And we want to implement policies that are effective in making our goals happen. And we have a goal for making our roads safer for all users. And the number one way that you can make your roads safer is by slowing speeds of vehicles. We may not have the current, most recent traffic speed count data for Ashland Terrace, but what we do have is our crash records. That Ashland Terrace is the highest incident of severe crash injuries in our city. And the best way to reduce those severe crashes and injuries is by reducing speeds. And we have the data. I don't believe that Red Bank is so unique that we will be immune to the effects that we've seen across multiple other cities that this technology has been implemented of 80 to 87% speed reductions just as a result of the equipment existing in that space, again, before it's even turned on, much less after it begins to be activated. So, for me, this is a no-brainer to keep our schools safer, to keep our drivers safer, less likely to be, injured severely in an accident. We've talked many times about, the solution that, and I especially, Commissioner Wilkinson, would really prefer is to, reconfigure our road design to encourage slower speeds inherently. But we know that we are most likely years out, especially from Ashland Terrace, Morrison Springs reconfiguration. And I'm thinking about the injuries, the severe injuries that we could prevent between now and those years from now when we do finally hopefully achieve that goal of reconfiguring those traffic patterns.
And you just reminded me of, thinking about the Vision Zero policy that we have adopted and are, trying to support in ways that reduce traffic fatalities. What was the country? It was Denmark, maybe? It was a Scandinavian country that implemented speed enforcement cameras, and in 1 year we're able to reach Vision Zero, had zero traffic related fatalities. So there is data, around that shows that it is effective for those things. And right now, the state law does restrict this to just the school zones and S curves.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any further questions or for clarification, need for clarification, commissioners?
No more questions.
Okay.
But I would like to hear once it's established, what the times are and whatnot.
Well, sure, we'd be happy to have those discussions, of course, moving forward and keep you updated on the project itself. For sure.
And one thing about the data, you would get a report every 30 days of the reduction and that kind of stuff. We want to keep you informed. We want to show you guys that this program is working, right?
All right, so right now we have a motion and a second. And we've had our discussion. Are there any comments from the residents present?
Dear John Hamel, 211 Woodrow Avenue. We're gonna hate speed cameras. I don't have a problem in school zone at all, whatever speed you want. Most of the accidents that happen on Dayton Boulevard, I believe it's when it's raining. Have we ever thought about putting rumble strips down to slow people down? Because, I mean, really and truly, I can hear the crashes from my house, and it's always raining when you hear them. Just wondered.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Peggy Road, 3102 East Avenue. I thought the speed limit right now on Ashland was 25. Why is it going to 35, or why is it changed from 35? Would it be safer at 25?
I can speak to that, Mayor, if you'd like to.
Sure.
Okay. So, we've had a lot of engineer studies on this, and 25 was never set based on any study. It was a random number that came up a long time ago. We talked to the people, it was just, let's do it. So we've been a lot more intentional with engineering studies, and 25 is just not really a doable number there.
So it's closing down in rain.
The recommendation from the traffic engineers was to set a reasonable speed based on the configuration of the road, and then effectively enforce against a reasonable speed. So we counterintuitively, the speed limit comes out to 35, but then we enforce against that reasonable number of 35. We're confident that we'll improve behavior and lower mishaps by simultaneously raising the speed from 25 to 35, and then effectively enforcing on the run from the S curves up top, upslope, and the school zone down slope.
Okay, then explain to me how they're not gonna ticket to 46 miles an hour, they're still going on the speed limit, 21 miles over what it is now.
Well, we have traffic data that shows people exceeding that significantly above that. And we haven't decided necessarily 11 is the number.
Right, but I'm just saying that if they got a limit, they're gonna go that limit. Most drivers go the highest limit they get without a ticket.
I think you'll find improved behavior. A lot of people will drop out of that 20 plus, and the average will come way down once we appropriately sign and speed it and enforce it.
And one other thing, I want to post the cameras, but I wasn't here for the first session. How's the revenue? Where does the revenue go? How does it split? I mean, they're not putting this in for free. I mean, who's gonna get the money? Is it split? Is it? So
It's a 50-50 cost share.
Okay. I didn't hear that part, so that's why I wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am.
John Boyer, 3901 Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. For the purposes of public education and trust, hearing the statements and thoughts regarding those two things, it may be a possibility to commit to some level of transparent reporting quarterly. It's released on the city website or possibly social media after the end of the quarter to validate publicly. I know that there's a lot of opportunity to collect the data and internally have trust of the city to say, yeah, of course, that's great, as the citizens do. But that it may be helpful for the narrative and for people's validation to have something like that considered. Additionally, just to really drive home the point that this is about safety, there maybe is potential to also take the civic penalty funds collected, and if it's possible, to dedicate them through budgeting to street safety initiatives specifically, as opposed to general use or for outside departmental or attention beyond what this program is really aiming to achieve, which is better safety.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Any further comments?
David Scadron, 4810 Stag Road. I appreciate the residents' comments before me on the regular reporting and the specific funds use of the revenue. I appreciate the healthy questioning, maybe even skepticism. I think it's good today to question technology, certain technologies and their uses. I think in the spirit of being transparent, it was touched on briefly, but if once the staff work and the contract work has been completed, if that could come back before the board, I would appreciate it as a resident that my representatives were able to discuss that in an open session, and maybe even allow further resident comments about it. A question was asked about the revenue sharing. My understanding is that it's based on projected revenue for that site based on traffic counts and speeding counts. I'm not sure if there is separate, like if each camera has its own revenue, like own contract, like because Morrison Springs is going to be different than Ashland Terrace. The school zone is going to be different than the S-curves. If there's cameras at all three of those locations, that isn't clear to me yet. And so I imagine that gets hashed out in the contract. Part of it is what the actual revenue sharing is. So I might caution against saying 50-50 is what it is, because it could even matter if we only go with arrivals and departures, you know, and so on. But anyway, thank you all for not just rubber stamping more cameras.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Chief, do you want to speak on the question about the revenue sharing, or Brian perhaps?
The revenue share is, I mean, it's 50-50 split wherever the location's
No matter
at.
what
No
cameras,
matter.
how many are up, or,
Right.
okay, where they're located?
Exactly.
Okay,
It's a 50-50 split.
okay, thank you for clarifying that. Director Tate?
Greg Tate, 31. I just wanted to apologize to Commissioner Wilkinson. I felt like after what I said, he may have took that as demeaning, and that was not my intent. What I should have done is I should have prefaced that by saying that we have looked at some of these techniques, the chief and I, and our traffic safety committee. We looked at some alternatives, and, you know, other options are either out of reach or just not applicable to Morrison Springs being a 5-lane road, you know, with high traffic on it. And so I just wanted to, you know, this conversation does not get past us any day of the week. I don't think that we don't talk about speeding in Morrison Springs and cameras and safety. So I just wanted to say, if I come across the meeting, I apologize. I didn't mean for that to happen. But, you know, you made good points, and the staff certainly, we take all these points into consideration, and we look at them and see what we have the capabilities to perform along these lines. So I apologize.
Mayor, do you mind if I will
Please.
offer a little perspective too from the city manager and also a runner? I have a 4-mile loop from my house, and I run down slope Ashland Terrace from Crestview and Knollwood. I approach from Crestview and I dash across to the Knollwood side because that's where the sidewalk is. So as you're a runner or a walker trying to cross there, people are coming upslope and they have pedal to the metal. You can hear the engines roaring. And as the slope drops, they don't take their feet off. They're going warp 9 as they crest heading eastbound. And I'm running for my life to get to the curb. So there is a lot of personal experience here. But as a city manager, the chief came to me probably 3 years ago with a conversation about Blue Line. And my assessment was we weren't coordinated enough internally. We didn't have the conversation between police, and public works. And then we added in community development, so microfilms, fingerprints are all over this. It took us a while as a city, as a staff, to really get internally coordinated where we're talking to each other on traffic safety issues. Then it took us a while to bring in some series of engineering studies to really quantify what the issue was. And I think for those who've made the journey, and it isn't necessarily obvious tonight, but it is obvious to all of us who've looked at this, we do have a speeding problem, as Commissioner Fairbanks Harvey spoke to, and it's quantifiable. And in this particular stretch of Ashland, we've had at least 3 fatalities to my knowledge on this piece of roadway. And we know they're accident prone. So when the conversation I felt had matured enough between police, fire, and public works and community development, and with a commission goal of safety on the streets, I felt it had to come to the commission for this level of conversation. There was really no way for staff to decide not to do cameras, because cameras are the state-of-the-art means to accomplish the goal of changing behavior, reducing accidents, reducing fatalities. So when we were ready as a staff, then we've teed up this conversation, and Blue Line has been patient with us. They've waited a couple of years, roughly, to get the conversation past me to you. And I think it's fully baked. There's still some wrinkles and still some loose ends and still some uncertainty, but it's fully baked enough to have this discussion in public. But ultimately, staff needs the political will of the commission to do this, because several people have mentioned there are people who really going to react negatively to these cameras. It is intrusive. There's a lot of concern about data privacy, being surveilled. I get all that. So it really ultimately comes down to, the values of the community. Do they want to see noticeable reduction in speeds that are palpable? The people that drive these roads ultimately will make their own decision. As I drive up Ashland Terrace, it's impossible to drive 25. I've tried. I've challenged myself to drive from Dayton upslope at 25. You can't do it. People are going boom, 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 boom. And it's just crazy. So to me, the need to make a reasonable speed limit that was, what the average driver would feel was appropriate. To me, that was 35. And that came through with the engineering studies that, yes, 35 is the right speed for that road. So then the reality is we can't really enforce against it without putting an officer in harm's way. Get through the S curves, there's just no place to pull a car over and conduct it that way. So I think we're into a scenario where really to accomplish our goals, save lives, improve, reduce accidents and improve behavior, we probably are looking at this technology, warts and all. But ultimately, from a staff perspective, it is a political with a small p discussion. And the right people to make that is, of course, the commissions. Here we are. Just want to give you a background on all the staff machinations over years to get to this point.
Thank you for that. I'll speak for myself that I agree. I would like to see when we get to, should this pass and we get to an implementation stage, for that to come back in work session for, a public conversation. And that just will be the very beginning piece of education, around this new way of enforcing speed in the high-risk areas in our community. If there are no more comments from the commission, Commissioner.
I would just like to echo that opinion too, and say this would be a prime topic of conversation for a future Citizens Advisory Board conversation. Yeah. So.
Which we talked about, I think, last time.
We did, yes. Yeah, and hopefully that's still underway. Yeah, I'll let my vote.
Okay. And any further comments from residents present? Okay. We'll go ahead and call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. moving on to resolution number 26-1893. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee to declare vacant the office of Judge of the City Court for the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, with a proposed amendment to the last line in subsection 3, replacing August 2026 general election with next appropriate election date. Do I have a motion to approve as amended? A motion from Commissioner Holmes. Do I have a second? A second from Commissioner Wilkinson. Any discussion? This is a sad occasion. Yes, absolutely. Definitely thinking and praying for Judge Houston and his family. All right. Any comments from the residents present? If there are no comments, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And moving on to resolution number 26-1894, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Red Bank, Tennessee, authorizing the allocation and expenditure of interest earned on American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, state and local fiscal recovery funds, as well as FRF. Do I have a motion to approve?
Just make a motion
Or a motion to deny? Do I have one or the other?
Based on our work session conversation and a desire for staff to revisit the ARPA interest funds allocation and the mural issue with 2 separate resolutions to come in the next meeting or two. Not in any way to just express any lack of support for the mural mentioned in this particular resolution, but merely the method to which this particular resolution framed it. I will make a motion to deny.
Okay, a motion to deny from Vice Mayor Berry. Do I have a second? I'll second. A second from Commissioner Holmes. Is there any discussion at this time? Any further discussion? Any comments from the residents present? Okay. If there are no comments, we'll call the vote. All in favor of denying the motion? Aye. Any opposed to denying your motion? No. Okay, motion carries. And motion carried? Motion carries. Okay.
Motion carries. Denying the resolution.
Yes. This is a first for all of us, I believe.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian. All right, and now is the time for citizen comments from Red Bank citizens on items not on the agenda. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for citizen comments. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and the city recorder will operate a timer. If time expires, please respect your direction and conclude any comments. Citizens comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner or to city staff or to the audience. The commission is here to listen. Please do not respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect a reply during citizen comment. Citizens are now invited to the podium. Please begin by stating your name and address.
All right, if there are no comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
I'll have a motion from Vice Mayor Berry and a second from Commissioner Wilkinson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.